G'day guys, 2025 Golden Rose preview time. I'll get into it. There's not too many runners this year, so hopefully I can get through it as quick as possible. Weather looks great. I think top of 31 is what we're expecting Saturday, so I'd say they'll put a fair bit of water on the track. True rail, yeah, sometimes just depends how much water they're going to put on this surface. They might get 3 or 4 off the inside. Yeah, it's just all dependent to, you know, how much they dump on there and sort of how quickly it dries out. But certainly the firmer it gets, the better the inside will be. And the sort of more it'll be hard to come from back and wide. And yeah, the softer it sort of is to that inside section, probably the fairer the track will play. But yeah, only a small but select field in this year's Golden Rose, and it's very interesting with Chris Waller having 4 runners. I will attack the map first, which I think is so important to this year's race. And anyone who sort of watches any content I put out, yeah, I'm pretty much known as the person who wears a tin hat a lot and sort of runs a few weird theories. And this race is no different with Chris Waller having 4 runners. He's got the 2 on pace runners in Baywack and 60s, and then he's also got Woderton, who's drawn gate 1. Tends to draw gate 1 in a lot of these big finals, but that's one of the tin hat theories. What sort of tempo would suit those horses best? And then he's also got Autumn Boy, who's probably going to be midfield-ish or trying to slot in somewhere. The 2 main dangers on paper are Attempted and also State Visit that he doesn't have, and they're probably going to be looking for a faster speed and be drawn sort of wide and forced back. So what I'm trying to get to here is, does he hold the front with Baywack? 60 sits outside and they sort of try and control the tempo with Woderton then following Baywack? Or do they sort of press on with 60s, try and break up the field a little bit? It's got big implications on the whole tempo of the race and how everything's going to be run, I think. And yeah, my actual top selection, getting to that a bit early, is Skyhook, and it's drawn directly outside 60. So big impact on that horse too, whether he has to roll forward and sit outside the leader potentially if 60s rolls forward and goes to the front, or whether he has to try and slot in behind 60s and Baywack here, which is, you know, probably hopefully the best outcome for him. And if Woderton kicks up, he's outside it, and then the others have all got to sort of jockey for positions from those middle to outside draws: State Visit, Autumn Boy, Tempted, and Rivellino out wide. Yeah, I think personally it won't be a suicidal tempo here. I think 60 sort of set a solid tempo in front last time, and Baywack chased a fast speed. I think Baywack's the faster horse. If it was my horse, it'd be leading Woderton and be sitting outside and just hoping they go quick enough that that Skyhook can just duck in behind them early with Nepotism, the other horse, drawn inside, not having a lot of speed. So, you know, my ideal situation would be Baywack in front, 60s outside it, Skyhook right behind them, Woderton behind the leader. So that's how I'm going to play it, and hope that's what eventuates. We'll go through runner by runner quickly. Baywack, certainly a horse that has come back in good order. 2 runs for Chris Waller, ex-James Cummings horse. Very well publicised that a lot of these horses have sort of gone to a new level as such with new trainers. But you know, whether it's a change of environment, they've sort of been targeting, you know, a new big stable. They put a lot of effort into these horses early in their preparations. Either way, Baywack's come back in really good order, and Chris Waller certainly does a great job with these sort of established horses, really, you know, getting them to thicken up, strengthen up, and race well. So he's in a good position here. His first up run was great. I thought sort of stuck wide and had to tough it out a little bit. We'll have a quick look at these lead-ups. Because so many of these runners do overlap, so he certainly has the speed to lead this race if he wants to. This is Woderton. Raging Force is not in this race. Rivellino is. I think it's the only other runner. So he was just sort of forced to sit wide here. This was not a fast run race, and he's still there at the business end of things. To me, he looks a horse that's ideally suited to sort of flowing, solid speed. He doesn't want to go slow. He's not like a mad sit sprinter. I think, you know, he just wants to go a little bit below standard, save up that energy, and then just be able to sprint off it and maintain. So that was first up, and then second up in a race where we'll see quite a few of these runners here, and probably look at this race a few times justifiably. So here we'll just look at Baywack. I believe he's in the white cap. I might get this wrong. Woterton out wide. State Visit out wide. Rivellino here. This is Nepotism. This is Skyhook, which you can see basically jumps on terms with every other horse except for Raging Force, who sets a fast tempo. I think this is 60s out wide as well here, who has had a run since. So sorry, that was Tempted there, and this is Baywack. I had the wrong one. So you can see Tempted's actually got good gate speed. A couple of things to note here is sort of Baywack ends up flowing towards the forward position. Skyhook, for whatever reason, just a horror ride, drags back in and gets sort of stuck in a zip fastener here, and Tempted just slots into the most beautiful position you've ever seen. Woterton gets caught wide. State Visit ends up one off, and Nepotism sort of back towards the end, just having a bit of a look around here. So I'll just concentrate on Baywack and then go back through the other runners, and won't have to look at the start again for those sort of races. But you can sort of see Baywack here is up outside of fast speed this time. First up it was slow. This time he's chasing a fast speed. He takes control and he doesn't really weaken. It's just a horse that had a softer run back in the pack, and she's a very talented horse too. Gets over the top of him late. As I said, we won't talk about the other runners at this stage. We'll sort of go through them, but in isolation, Baywack, not running through the line, but not stopping significantly. And, different setup, 1400 metres. If he can control the speed from an inside draw here, get to the front and control things, he's a dangerous horse in this race, for sure. But that wasn't 60s in this race. Sorry, 60s in another race, so forget that. We'll have a look at 60s soon. Nepotism, okay, I probably should have watched that there. So he's obviously good form was last preparation. It's just whether that is super strong form, or whether he was a little bit flattered in fast run races, or whether he's, sort of had to come back and try and sort of take on maybe a little bit better grade this time in. So yeah, Nepotism is in the green with the yellow star. He ends up sort of towards the back in the run, not doing a lot of work. He runs quite a solid section from the 8 to the 400, but I think he peaks significantly. He sort of has to drag off heels of Woterton and State Visit here to get to the outside, which again is forgivable. I think he's a real momentum horse. So yeah, I describe this run as a pass mark and forgivable, but he also peaked. And my big issue with that is when you get into a sort of grand final race like this and you're going up in distance, I want you to be ready to run that distance, not sort of going towards it and ready to run. He's got to jump from 12 to 1400 metres off a race where he's clearly peaked after doing not a lot of work in the run and sprinting for 400 metres. So if he's got to do more work here over more distance and against sort of fitter or similar fitness opposition, he has to improve significantly. Can he do that? I'd have to say that he's up against it to a certain degree here. I think it's a tough setup for him to win and peak here. I think he'll sort of peak third, fourth up, especially coming from this stable. Skyhook's the next one we'll look at.
So the 6 colts are ready to go.
Talented horse, Skyhook, for mine. Very underrated. Sort of got to the slipper on a tough preparation and didn't run poorly there, but sort of peaked. First up here, he was ridden back off the speed. I think it was just purely, by design of the race. They didn't want to risk cooking him early. He was ridden against his pattern to a certain degree. It wasn't the strongest race of all time, but Grand Prairie came out and ran well out of this race. And I think, against a slow tempo ridden from the back, he's not a horse that's a real sit sprinter for mine. He's a horse that needs to build his momentum and really sort of get to his top and grind horses into the ground. I think that's his superpower. I'd love to see him lead this race for that reason, but I doubt that's probably going to happen here. But we'll have a look at his last start, and he did have a little clean-out trial in between, which I love. So he went first up there. I don't think that race was anywhere near as strong as this race. And then he goes second up. He goes trial, second up here. So this is where he is in the white with the red V, the St. George Dragons colours. As I said, he sort of could have easily, led the horses inside him, I believe, and then either given up to the leader or sat outside leader or sat a lot closer. And again, they took the sit here, and he just gets into a horrible spot, trailing the wrong horses with the wrong horses outside him. no chance to build that momentum I talked about earlier. And, you know, he's really in a zip fastener here. And whilst Tempted has been able to build its revs up and go through its gears, being a similar style of horse, a horse that you sort of can maintain a sprint is how I'd probably put it. And then he's sort of forced. So I'm going to go back a bit. What's significant to me here, especially when you're talking about fast tempos, he's dragged back to here, but sort of 2 to 3 lengths in front of Tempted. And then we go to when he finally gets out here, he's 2 to 3 lengths behind Tempted. Am I saying he cost the ride cost the horse 5 lengths, 6 lengths? Probably not, but it's somewhere in between. And to have exerted more energy early, then been held up, had no momentum, and have to exert it again late to get as close as he did here, I thought his effort was tremendous. Tempted was certainly shut down a little bit late across the line, no doubt, but you can see through the line, and unfortunately we're seeing celebrations instead of the horses running through the line, which is highly frustrating for people who like to watch videos. But when they get back to it, he's sort of up there, and you can see McAvoy here really still like trying to shut the horse down. I think he had a lot left to give. And I think going forward to 1,400 metres, I've got no issue with it. I think that's where the market's opposing it. I think he's about an $8 chance at the moment, and I've sort of got him closer to favourite. So, yeah, I think this horse is ready to go. I think 1,400 metres is fine for him. I think he's had a good preparation for it. The rider is the worst query for me, the biggest query for me, and just hoping that he lands either in that outside leader behind 60s, 1 out, 1 back, or even go straight to the front. They're the positions I'd like to see this horse in. You know, preferably 1 out, 1 back or in front. But if they're outside the leader, just so hopefully that's a controlled tempo, and I don't think it's the end of the world for him either. So, yeah, obviously I've got a big opinion of Skyhook and think he's going to run well here. Woderton, well, first up he was unlucky in that race behind Raging Force in the race where Baywack runs. So this is him behind the leader here. He was able to hold that spot. They didn't go quickly. They'll be trying to do similar here. He did get chopped out and sort of was unlucky. And his form last preparation was, you know, quite solid without being, you know, superstar status. His first start in a race looked like he could be anything, and then he just sort of struggled to really sort of kick on from there, I think, like sort of make you a believer. He does get caught wide again here, the same as he did in the size produce, I think over 1,400 metres, and he toughs it out well. I think his preparation's really good leading into this race. He's got James McDonald, he's got gate 1. He's going to get that soft run. I think Switzerland did something similar in a race one day where, you know, you can see this sort of horse where he's going to be coiled up on the inside. If he gets the gaps when he wants it, he's going to be very dangerous. Is he as good a horse as what everyone sort of thinks? I think he's a very solid horse. But I'd rather be with this horse Skyhook at $8 over this horse at whatever he is, $3.50, $4, $4.50, whatever he is. I think he's sort of half the price of Skyhook, and I can't get him that close. State Visit was pretty good first up. He was in that race. Sorry that I keep having to show this, but yeah, he had the nice run inside Woderton. This is him here, directly inside, and Rivellino's directly inside him too, so we won't have to look at Rivellino. Nepotism here. So all these runners sort of finished in a back. They're really going to need to improve significantly, I think. He's drawn a little bit awkward, probably going to be forced back, not the rider of choice either. So he's got a little bit against him, State Visit here, and I think he's going to improve again into sort of a race like the Caulfield Guineas. I think that's going to be much more suitable for him, same as Nepotism. Rivellino, to me, is really just not showing enough to get near these horses. First up was okay. Second up was okay. We saw him sort of just battling in there, but he's peaked both runs, and I think he needs to find a little bit too much, especially from the outside draw. Nash could try and pull a rabbit out of his hat and drive this horse forward. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't think he can win from there regardless, but, you know, it might be worth the try. Autumn Boy, very interesting. We saw him on debut, beat his sort of well-fancied stablemate, and did it in good style. They were a very slowly run race, and this is him sort of down the outside, winding up. Very strong, pins his ears back, real line-finding horse. You know, typical for Chris Waller. Look the way he just sort of strengthened and lengthened through the line there. It's a great thing that you like to see. He took that straight to a listed race up in Brisbane over the Carnival there. And again, he had a nice run in transit. He's certainly had a nice run in most of his runs here, like similar position. But every time, all he does is want to find the line, and that's obviously something you can't instill into a horse. They either have it or they don't, and this horse has certainly got good strength, and sort of the way he just never seems to weaken. Big, long striding, ears pricked across the line there. So both those runs, fastest last 400 of the day, both meetings. So all good signs leading into this preparation. And then first up this time in, Autumn Boy ran into 60s. It was a controlled speed. It was hard to run on. Maybe you could argue it was a little bit of a sleepy ride, but first up on sort of a Caulfield Guineas Golden Rose path, on you don't expect him to take off early. You expect him to sort of cuddle and be closing late, but he did find a really nice position here in run. Whether he maybe underestimated the powers of the leader as well, but was well rated, the leader, on this day, and I think he would have felt like he was close enough on the bend here to sort of rein the leader in, but he certainly got close, and again, took a little bit of time to wind up and get to his top, but continues to lengthen and find the line and do everything you want to see from a horse sort of going up in distance. Where he gets to in the run here is really the biggest issue for him. He probably copped the rawest end of the stick, and see again how good was he just through the line there the last 150 metres or so, and after the line he's only going to improve from that. It's just a big query on where he's going to be. He probably he's probably got enough speed to land on the back of Skyhook, which would give him the upper hand over a horse like Tempted, but then he might have Tempted on his back, so he's probably going to have to be landing at a spot to get close enough and then hold off a smart filly, and he's got sort of Woden and Skyhook potentially in front of him. So it's not going to be a gimme for Autumn Boy. We're going to find out, really how good he is on Saturday, I think. And, it definitely doesn't surprise me to see him win. I think he's a super talented horse on the way up. I'd rather back him than Woden. It's just whether he can sort of get past Skyhook and hold off Tempted. We'll find out. 60s. Sixth run first preparation is really difficult for me. Horses don't tend to continue to improve into their prep. This horse has done so, and its first run was not anything spectacular. It was a forgive run. Then sat outside the leader in this Sky Glider race, who we haven't seen that horse since, but it's turned out to be an extremely strong form race. Abnormally so, but, really slow run race where, everything that's running it's kind of come out and run well. 60s then dominated on a heavy track, sat outside the leader on a slow tempo and smashed him. And then it was a little bit lackluster. You might have thought it was end of prep next run, coming off that heavy track run where it sat wide in the Grand Prairie stock car race, and was a little bit disappointing. But then, we just saw what it did to Autumn Boy last start where it led and did a good job. Can it lead this field and win? Maybe, if it controls and it's got the pattern in its favour. I think it needs every favour like it got last start to win. If it sits outside the leader, I think it'll be tough, and I think it's got a tough job no matter what. Sort of deep into its first prep, having to go again, a little bit flat, 2 runs back off the heavy track win, and then another peak performance last start. Can it back that up? If it can, it's a much better horse than what I give it credit for, and you'd have to think that it's got a tough job here. And then we get to sort of the main horse of the preview, as in the favourite. Where's she going to be in the run? That's number one, but we'll have a look at how strong she is. This is her last run. So she was in a similar position to 60, sort of 6th run into her first prep. I thought she might struggle here, and she didn't begin great. She sort of sits wide, no cover the whole way, and just bullies a pretty solid field late. So here she is. I think this is Percy Sykes. Sits wide and just continues to build up her revs. And too strong for a pretty solid field here. Sort of Savvy Halley within the law, whether that's the A form. We've seen that form. What is it? We're not really sure, but it's not bad form. There's no doubt about that. It's just how strong is it? And she's come out and sort of put them away first up. We've seen that a few times now, but we'll have one more look just to show sort of a few things. Like she sprints, she finds the perfect position. She sprints hard. She's able to maintain that run for 600 metres. She does peak late, but she was only first up off one trial that we've seen. She's obviously probably had jump outs and things, but, not a big horse. She should come to hand pretty quickly. these horses back here have got to do something special. You know, Wodenton obviously swaps draws, which helps, but your state visits, your Rivolinos, your Nepotisms have to do something special to turn the tables on this filly. And we've talked about Skyhook was unlucky as well, but, you know, very hard to knock her. She definitely pulls up straight away as soon as he relaxes on her across the line. So you see there, she sort of pulls up. So I think she'd had enough on the line. Can she go straight to 1,400 metres, give them a start, maintain a run down the outside and round them up? That's the question. You know, as I said, I think she's very good and she's going to need to be to do that. She deserves to be in the betting, but I just think she's a little bit short. I think personally, sort of said, I think Skyhook's the one to beat. I do think Baywack's got a chance up on speed. Wodenton's dangerous because it draws that spot directly behind the leader. It's got James McDonald and, you know, an ideal setup. And then can your horses, Autumn Boy and Tempted, come down the outside and run on and beat them? Yeah, I think Skyhook's the one to beat. As I said, I think each way Skyhook at around $8 is a great bet. It'd be my, if I had to have one bet, only bet. If I've got to back two runners, I'm probably backing Skyhook, and I think Autumn Boy will get out in the market to sort of $5 range. I think that'll be fair enough. Very, very scared of Tempted, and, you know, scared of Wodenton as well, just because of the setup, stable, everything about it, where it's going to be. But I think it needs all favours to win the race, whereas I think, you know, Skyhook's an underrated horse that's good value, and Autumn Boy and Tempted are going to be winding up down the middle of the track and running on strongly. So, yeah, that's my look at the Golden Rose for 2025. I'll try and do a few of these over the next few weeks. I might have a quick look at the Manicato and other races, and also do Little Birdie on a Thursday with the guys every week, where we look at all the main races pretty much for the upcoming Saturday. And then I also do Monday reviews throughout the carnival times to sort of go back and have a look at the races and try and measure up where these horses might be suited in the coming weeks. So if you like that sort of content, hopefully you enjoyed this, and if I hopefully helped you at least make a few decisions on this one as well. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.
What are you really gambling with?